When hope is gone, undo this lock and send me forth on a moonlit walk. Release restraint level 0. Hey kids, wanna see a dead body?
Hi guys, this is the Void of the Ravenclaw. Welcome back to another fanfiction story. If you like this type of content, smash the like button and subscribe for future videos and updates that I do post on my community tab frequently. If you want to get access to any future content, check out the Discord. This is The Bloody Inhuman, Part 0. Now let's run some information down so you know going in what type of fanfiction this is. This is a Marvel fanfiction with my own custom OC. He is a inhuman, but once his inhuman genes fully activated, his powers are more vampiric, changing him into a vampire. He has all of their strengths, none of their weaknesses. Because he's not a true vampire, he can't make more vampires by trying to turn someone. He just he doesn't have that capability. In Marvel, there's been many different ways for someone to turn into a vampire. Technology, magic, and so on. So it's, in the comics, there's been several different types of vampires that were created in different ways, so. He will age normally to a certain age, then his aging will stop altogether. Now let's get into this story. As we start our story off in one of the many complexes that Hydra has been establishing and been kidnapping babies across the entire world, that has the X gene and the inhuman gene, and place them in internment camps, trying to produce the perfect soldier for Hydra. And the conditions are quite harsh for the children. All of the children are wearing some sort of full-body white medical jumpsuits with black collars around their neck to suppress their powers, and add a nice shock collar to keep them in line when they act up. Now, the inhuman part of the population in these internment camps haven't been exposed to the gas yet, but Hydra has a good supply of it. Fortunately, the main protagonist, or OC of the story, Echo, was one of the many children that found themselves in these internment camps. Echo is a 5-year-old boy. His inhuman gene is active, but it's in a dormant state. It won't activate until his small body can handle the changes that will occur. All the children, including Echo, never tried to cause any trouble. They don't remember anything besides the internment camp. The internment camp is more like a mixture between an internment camp and a laboratory. They don't know any better. They don't know about the outside world until they started taking classes, mostly digitally transporting information into their skulls with basic information. Information was very limited, so they don't get any ideas about going to the outside world. But given enough information, if they ever found themselves on the surface, they'll be able to know what's what. So, they weren't very defiant. The older boys, yes. but not the younger ones. The younger ones are always obedient. Echo has noticed a few changes in his body. He's been going through the last few days. He noticed he thinks faster. His hearing had got a whole lot better. His eyesight just increased. His vision increased. He started to develop hearing, that he could hear everyone's heartbeat. As his vision started to go through a change, that he could see someone's blood, their veins, and their heart. He doesn't understand what's going on. After all, he's still 5 years old, but he's slowly starting to compose. Well, comprehend a lot of different things all at once. Echo was broken out of his concentration, trying to get his new senses under control, as several Hydra agents dragged out some of the older boys to go under re-education. By now, Echo has seen this several times, so he barely even react. He only gave them a slight glance and continued to eat his breakfast. He's in a large cafeteria in the encampment. After everyone ate, they were all escorted back to their cells. Echo followed the Hydra agent that directed him back to his cell. Echo stepped through the door to the cell as the cell door immediately closed behind him. Echo's cell that he found himself in is a decent size for a cell, bed, some books on the other side of the cell. There's a door that leads to a bathroom. It's more lavish compared to the other ones, but because of Echo being so cooperative and never went out of line with the Hydra agents, they granted him with some certain perks. In his small mind, he sees how resistant would only give you pain. So he chose the lesser of two evils. In order to survive, he had to act like he was obedient to survive. Echo doesn't really socialize with any other children. He's always been an odd child. Even Hydra thought so as well. Echo's always had a pale skin and red eyes. 5 years has passed. Echo is now 10 years old. Echo's thought process has increased in these 5 years. Echo was guided to the cafeteria with the rest of the children and the older kids. Echo found his normal seat and kept to himself, but unfortunately, that was going to get ruined real fast as a riot broke out from the older kids. As the Hydra agents acted fast, as one of the older kids managed to smash one of the Hydra agents in the skull, as the agent fell down on the table where Echo was sitting while he was trying to eat his food, as blood spattered over the side of his face. Echo wiped the blood from his face and placed it on the tip of his tongue as his pupils started to dilate. Echo felt extreme amount of pain, like his bones were breaking and his muscles tearing, being destroyed and then being rebuilt, then destroyed again, repeatedly. But no one noticed. All of the Hydra agents were too busy trying to subdue the older kids who are currently rioting. Two sharp fangs begin to grow from Echo's mouth. The scent of blood took over the 10-year-old boy's mind. Most mutations, when it comes to the inhumans, are usually drastic negative by appearance. Echo Echo did go through a mutation, but his mutation was positive, more than it was negative. Echo's inhuman powers is vampiric in nature, turning him into a vampire. All of their strengths, but none of their weaknesses. The only thing he can't do is create more vampires. That doesn't make him invincible. He has a healing factor, like all vampires. Echo's healing factor is supercharged. He's pretty close to Deadpool's level in terms of regeneration. His strength, speed, heavily increased. Much like vampires, he has a thirst for blood. In all technical terms, Echo is a vampire. There's a difference. How he gained his vampiric nature. Most people are turned by another vampire or through other means. But Echo's powers did that for him. Vampire is a vampire. He instantly got up and charged at one of the Hydra agents, and immediately leaped up in the middle of the air and jumped onto the Hydra agent's back and bent his head to the side hard as he bit down on his neck, as his fangs ripped right through his skin, as he began to suck blood ravishingly, like he's a ravaged animal, as he keeps chomping down on his neck, as blood begins to spill all over around the whole area where Echo is at. When Echo was done drinking the Hydra agent's blood, he attacked the closest person to him, as several Hydra agents came in charging, as Echo dodged and weave around their sloppy attacks, as it seems what thought process Echo has right now. Everything seemed to be moving in super slow motion, as he easily snapped one of the Hydra agent's neck and ripped out another agent's heart out by plunging his hand into his chest as he begins to eat the heart. As Echo went into a murderous rampage, he didn't just kill Hydra agents, he killed everyone that got in his radius. But the Hydra agents act fast. They were trying to save what living children that they could inside the cafeteria, not out of some concern over them, just because they're investments they have made. So they immediately activated Echo's collar, trying to shock him, but Echo just charged right through the pain, as all Echo could see is red. When the Hydra agents were thinking they might have to put him down, Echo's body finally gave out, as he hasn't fully adjusted to the drastic changes to his own body. They immediately restrained him and sent him to a more secure cell that could hold against stronger mutant abilities. Since that day, they kept Echo under lock and key. After some tests and examinations, the higher-ups of Hydra was surprised they got themselves a inhuman vampire. The chances of a inhuman mutation to this degree is like 1,000 to 1 chances of this occurring. Is a freak of nature chance. And they finally realized they got themselves a perfect little assassin. Echo, on the other hand, was adjusting to his newfound strength and how his body works. Ever since his inhuman powers fully activated, his intelligence skyrocketed more than it did prior, a few years ago. So he fully understands that he's just a useful tool, a weapon, for this Hydra organization. He wants freedom, but he can't just act yet. He's not strong enough. And his power is only increasing every day. Echo is calculating that his inhuman genes hasn't totally awakened yet from their dormant state, but he's getting close. You just need to buy some time and wait for the perfect opportunity to escape this encampment that's clearly deep underground. Echo's never once seen a window or the sky, so he deduces that whatever complex he's in is deep underground. But an opportunity presented itself one night. Echo was in his solitary confinement cell as he heard fighting. Echo's normal fingernail sharpened as he slowly dragged his sharpened finger over the metal cell door, slowly cutting a large hole for him to step through it, as he could hear the grinding noise of his fingernail cutting through the metal. The moment he pushed the opening down, with a small little carving he made out of the metal, he grabbed one of the agents by the throat and ripped his throat out with his fangs as he threw the body to the side. As Echo could hear explosions going off in the encampment, Echo used the confusion while the Hydra agents and guards were more focused on the explosions. No one kept an eye on Echo, so Echo walked to the large... As he walks to the door that exit to the basically solitary confinement wing of the complex, as he did the same thing by dragging his finger, making a hole through the door with his sharpened claws. Once he cut an opening with his fingernail, he stepped out. As he instantly grabbed the side of his collar around his neck, as he begins to break it by shattering it with his vampire strength, as he ripped off the remaining of the collar off his neck. As Echo began to run down the hall, Echo noticed Hydra agents were fighting against SHIELD agents who is currently assaulting the Pacific encampments, but Echo doesn't know who these people are. He doesn't know what SHIELD is. Luckily for Echo, no one is paying attention to him. Echo instincts took over as he ran towards the nearest large shadow. As he jumped right through the shadow, as Echo sunk through the shadow, as he begins to shadow travel for a couple seconds, as he came out of the shadow of a large tree in the middle of the woods. Echo didn't have a graceful landing strategy, so he hit the ground hard. When he reappeared out of the shadow of the large tree, he fell down a good amount of distance. Once he landed on the ground, of the floor, the rocks nearby began to shake. As a few seconds later, as the ground slightly begins to crack into like spiderweb cracks, as Echo slowly got up, confused, he had no control over his body when his instinct took over, so he doesn't know how he did that, nor does he know where he is. He's uncertain whether ability he has. He's not sure how far he's from the complex, so Echo decided not to stay in the same location for no longer, and begin to travel further into the woods or the forest. He's uncertain of his location. All he sees is forest, no sign of civilization. When he started to run through the forest, he didn't realize he was going full vampire speed. As he's sliding and dodging around old trees without even noticing, as Echo stopped in front of an old abandoned cabin in the middle of the woods, he immediately used his sharpened fingernails to lockpick the door. The moment he entered the door, he shut it and locked it. While searching around the cabin, he found some spare clothes around his size, nothing too fancy, pants, shirt. He put on a fresh pair of clothes after he took a much needed shower. Lucky for Echo, there was plenty of bathroom essentials and supplies. After he got out of the bath or the bathroom, he got dressed and sat on the couch in the living room of the cabin. Now that he's temporarily out of danger, he could finally think upon what has happened to him. He had no idea he was a inhuman. He thought he was just a mutant that hasn't developed his powers yet. But he never expected his inhuman powers to basically turn him into a blood-sucking monster, nor did he ever thought his inhuman powers were already active, just dormant. He still hasn't fully accepted what he is now. Echo is getting quite hungry by now, but he knows for a fact that food doesn't sound appealing, or has a sinking feeling it won't do anything. He has a strange sensation for more blood. Well, he's never had animal blood before, but he doesn't really have a choice in the matter. There's not another living human in the forest for miles. If they were, he would have known about it. The way his smelling has increased and hearing, he could easily detect if there's any humans in the forest or the woods he found himself in. He's still uncertain where he is. He's still trying to adjust to the surface with all his increased senses. It's still quite difficult. So he tried to block out all of the different sounds he hears. He hears all of the birds chirping, the animals running around the forest, a waterfall. As he concentrated on the waterfall, blocking off other sounds, as he finally got his hearing under control, Echo was fully calmed down. He immediately went and tried to catch any live animals. After trial and error, he finally caught a deer. He was fairly new to this, so he savagely bit down, draining the deer completely. Once he was done with the meal, he backed away from the corpse of the deer as nearby starving wolves slowly approached the dead deer. Once Echo left the area, I need to control myself. I can't have corpses all around, laying around all of the forest, drain up their blood. People will clearly start asking questions. One of the Hydra bastards did call me a blood-sucking vampire. So that's most likely what I am, a vampire. At least my powers turn me into a vampire, at least. I don't really understand any of this really, but I can't freak out. I need to remain in control. I'm clearly too dangerous to be close to any civilized city. At least those Hydra bastards gave us basic information about the outside world. have no intention letting those bastards get away with it. Once I'm powerful enough, I'm going to kill them all. I'm going to kill them slowly. But first, I need to figure out what I can do with my strengths, speed, hearing, sight, and smell. It's probably superior than any normal person. So I'm an inhuman. So it happens my inhuman powers somehow transform me into a type of vampire. That's just dandy. I'm not even sure vampires even exist. But if they do, it's best not to catch their attention. I highly doubt they'll be too happy about my existence. This is all speculation on my part without any solid information. I might be a child, but I know I'm way too dangerous to be around humans. It's been a week since Echo's been at the cabin. He noticed the animal blood does help, but doesn't feed him fully. But he could survive off that for now. He drank from the animals, and the nearby corpse of the animals were always eaten by the wolves. So the wolves always stayed nearby, knowing there's a guaranteed source of food every so often. As the wolves destroyed all the evidence, Echo decided to continue this path, best to be unnoticed. Echo spent experimenting what he can do, but so far he can't repeat what he did when he escaped Hydra's control. But he did notice he could use the nearby shadows like clay and control them. So he's been practicing with his shadow manipulation. He's unsure if this will be the only ability he has. There was a couple vampire novels in the cabin that he read. In one of the books, the vampires could have many abilities. But he doesn't take what in the fantasy novel very seriously. But he didn't outright deny it either. He put that in a possible pile. What he really needs is a computer. But he highly doubt he could get even internet access out here in the middle of nowhere. I said yes. He does know about the internet from all the information that was downloaded into his brain through one of his courses he had to go through. Classes. The children there went through the process. Echo walked out of the cabin in the middle of the night and start a fire. When the fire was completely lit, he used the source of the fire to create shadows as he begins to manipulate all the nearby shadows and forming them into a shadow dagger. It only took Echo several attempts to make a solid shadow dagger. Once he was satisfied with his shadow weapon, he threw it at a nearby tree, cutting right through it. Cutting through multiple trees. As the shadow weapon finally stopped moving, was dug into the bark of a tree. Immediately, the shadow dagger disappeared from the trunk of the tree and reappeared right back into Echo's hand. I see not only I can create the shadow daggers, but I could also have them return back to me once I threw them. It seems like I could do it at will. Definitely will come in handy. The rest of the time, when he was training with his abilities, he focused controlling the urge to rip out someone's throat, out by meditating in the middle of the woods, in the wildlife, in parts of the forest with a large population of wild animals, using the wild animals as training. trying to prevent himself from attacking any of the nearby sources of blood. He did that for several months. When he has his hunger under a good amount of control, somewhat control over his bloodlust, but not fully. I'll have to be careful. Echo's not stupid. He knows he has somewhat control over his bloodlust, but if he gets pushed too far, he'll definitely trigger it. He'll just have to keep working at it in the future. He's already been at the cabin for far too long, as Echo decides to move on, just in case Hydra managed to track him down. He will not go back to that place. He'll kill anyone try to capture him again. He won't be captured like an animal again. He continued on his way, using vampire speed to get as far as possible. He eventually found his way to a local road. On his way walking down the road, he did come across a gas station that seems to be abandoned. So he broke in and searched the place, as he found a hooded jacket. It fit nicely over his head, concealing the upper part of his face, concealing his red eyes. As he put the new jacket on and left the gas station, he eventually found out where he is. He's somewhere in Canada. The first thing Echo did was to use his vampiric abilities to get access to money by pickpocketing several civilians. When he finally entered a large city, everyone was going about their business, getting ready for the winter, so Echo found several good targets to pickpocket, stealing money without being noticed. He went to a rundown hotel where they won't ask any questions or too many questions, as he paid for the room for about a month. Once he got his room key and entered it, he locked the door as he shut all the curtains. He noticed in one of the drawers in the kitchen of the hotel room, he found a small map of the country, so he easily pinpointed his location. He's not too far away from the borders of America. There's where he decided to go, the United States. He can't simply walk through the border. He has no ID, no passport. He has no record of his existence, period. So far he knows, at least. Crossing the border wouldn't be too hard with his vampiric abilities. Whatever border wall they have won't be a problem. Luckily, this hotel room came with a laptop, so he immediately began to learn as much as he can, using the laptop to search the internet. It didn't take him long to come across plenty of videos and articles about the Avengers, heroes. He learned a few other things about his own kind, inhumans. He found out there's a rare few of them on Earth, and the rest of his kind is on the moon. He also learned about mutants, the Xavier Institute, and the Brotherhood, and very different heroes scattered around the country. But despite wanting to meet one of his kind, he chose not to interfere with any inhuman if he came across. He doesn't know how they would react. He had a feeling what his power is and what it did to his body. This is not something that happens often, if any. What he saw and learned on the internet shows that trusting other people on this planet, even his own kind, would not be very wise. He began to search the internet for anything about vampires. He found out a lot of information that was completely fiction and fantasy. Mixture between fiction and fantasy. But there's a few videos that seem more legit, but with no concrete evidence that vampires actually exist outside of his mutation. Echo is trying to cover all his tracks. He doesn't want to have himself revealed to any possible threats by complete accident. In the middle of the night, Echo left his hotel room and snuck into the local hospital. After going into the back, sneaking in where they keep all of their blood supply, he begins to load up the blood bags into his backpack. When he picked up the last bag he needed, he heard the door was about to be opened up by a doctor. Echo went through the vent that was right above him and began to crawl through, eventually getting out of the top of the roof from the ventilation shaft, and jumped off the roof and began to head back to his hotel room. With a good amount of human blood supply, he put all the blood bags in the refrigerator. It's not the best place to store blood, but the refrigerator is going to have to do. That's all the hotel provides. He highly doubt they'll have special refrigerators to store blood, so he's going to have to use what he can. But it's going to be plenty of blood to keep him well fed for quite a while. Like I said, it's not the best place to place blood. It'll have to do. For now, as Echo take a glass from the cupboard and rip off the small top part of the blood bag and begin to slowly pour the blood into the glass and begin to drink it. He wanted to chuck the entire glass and rip through the blood bag, but he chose to restrain himself. He can't go into another blood rage. He'll definitely will most likely be found out if that ever happened in a populated city. He'll either be hunted down or driven out, whatever comes first. But one day, Echo was exploring the city. He caught the scent of blood, and quite a lot of it. Smelling the blood, Echo immediately went towards the scent of blood. No matter how mature and intelligent Echo is, he still has the curiosity of a child. He did notice the sun was going down when he entered the alleyway and eventually made it to the end of the alleyway that is currently a dead end. He saw the entire walls was covered in blood and pieces of corpses scattered all around. There's a couple full solid corpses, but the majority of them were all in pieces. As Echo began to examine the dead human corpses, he did notice puncture wounds on their necks of their body, like someone bit down. He saw similar wounds from the novels and what he's seen on the television about vampires. This is either a very unique and creative serial killer, or this is a legit vampire bite. But Echo is unsure. But Echo heard and sensed footsteps coming his direction. Regardless of if these humans were killed by vampires or not, he needs to hide. And he needs to hide fast. Gave one quick look around, as he clearly noticed a lot more of the bodies that were ripped apart like from an animal. But he can't really think upon that right now. He needs to hide. As they're getting closer, suddenly the shadows begin to engulf Echo, as he slowly sank into the shadow, surprised, shocked, but chose not to fight it, as he was completely concealed into the shadows. But oddly enough, he's able to see and hear what's going on in the alleyway, as he just allows his instincts to take over, as he sees several men appear, as he notices a van pulled up shortly afterwards, as he notices all of the men have vampire features, vampire fangs and all. Echo heard a lot of information from the two vampires, pulling all the corpses and pieces of corpses back in the back of the van. So happened to encounter cleaners that clean up murders scenes like this, so vampires' existence don't get exposed to the general population. Now, another thing Echo has to watch out for: vampires. He highly thought these vampires were churned, though. The same method that he went through. So they might not look kindly towards someone who is not a true vampire in their eyes. What he's read about vampires, they're usually arrogant and stuck-up pricks, elitists. So, once they left, Echo stepped out of the shadows and went back to the hotel room. He immediately went back to his hotel room to get started on what he's going to do next, because he's recently drank blood. He won't be feeding anytime soon. So he continued his research online using the laptop that the hotel room provided. There's already been news reports about the break-in in the local hospital, about several blood supplies that were stolen. So Echo can't really do that again anytime soon. He's going to have to move on before he runs out of blood. The next couple days, he decided to check out the borders between America and Canada. He clearly can't enter through the main entrance to pass to America from Canada's border, for obvious reasons. But the large metal fence that separates the two countries from each other could easily be jumped over. He went back to his hotel room and packed up all his belongings. He didn't have much to pack, so it didn't take very long to pack up everything, including his blood bag, his blood supply, what he has left, into his backpack, and immediately left the hotel. Once he made it to the border fence, he easily hopped over it and landed on his feet using his vampire jump. Well, just jump, basically. He clearly jumped right over it very, very easily. Fascinating. Must have some sort of vampire power when it comes to jumping. That's probably why I can run so fast. Despite that crazy hunger for blood, that so far is the only drawback I've seen so far. Let's not linger here any further. I would not like to be spotted by any border control that controls this area. He got as far as he could as he entered the forest that's in the area. He did the same thing when he got to the city in Canada. Once he entered one of the United States cities, he entered the city. It wasn't a very big city in the US, but it's the perfect place to pickpocket a few people. Once he collected enough money, he paid for the hotel room in the most crappy part of town of the city that he found, so that they don't ask too many questions why a 10-year-old boy is getting a hotel room alone, especially one who's wearing a hooded jacket that's covering in most of his face, only leaving the bottom part of his mouth exposed. Echo paid for the room and immediately put his blood bags in the refrigerator. He still has some Canada currency left, but he doesn't know what to do with it. Just in case he hold on to it, just in case. He's unaware that he would have to take that to a decent sized bank branch to convert the Canadian currency to American currency. Echo knows some basic information, but not all of it. So he's unaware. You could do that at one of the large banking branches in America. So he left what he had in his backpack. Not a whole lot, but enough. But Echo needs every bit of money he can get his hands on without drawing attention to himself. Echo's still in the mindset that he must be kept hidden, allowing any vampire heroes, mutants, inhumans, knows of his existence is something he does not want. He has no doubt. Things will get complicated fast if he was ever exposed. He's still only 10 years old, and he still doesn't fully understand what he's capable of or any of his weaknesses he might have. He noticed sun has no effect on him. He's uncertain of other methods that are known to kill vampires, but he has to figure out and separate fact from fiction to make any progress with his own weaknesses and powers. We're going to stop it there. I'll catch you guys in the next video.